sort. Am I talking about an ideal society where everybody in the city is very sort of happily getting along? The answer is no, because I think that kind of city would be boring, frankly. And actually, the point about city is the heterogeneity and the conflict, about through the conflict to try, out of that conflict, to generate significant change. Now, when you look, and this is what was interesting to me about El Alto, the reason why, for example, the kind of unions and neighborhood association meetings were always well attended, because if you didn't attend, you were likely to get shafted, you know. And you know, I mean, for instance, the Street Traders Association, there'll be fights over, you know, who uses this piece of the, so there was a lot of antagonism there. And because of the antagonism, they came. If they all came and all said happy to each other, always everything's fine, you know, and went away, nobody bothered to come. But they bothered to come because they had reason to come. Because if they didn't come, then they'd suddenly find their spot had disappeared on the street and somebody else had taken it, you know, I mean. So the antagonism is actually terribly important to the dynamic. But out of that, when the government started to get, you know, do neoliberal repression, all of the people knew each other, even if they were in an antagonistic relationship, and they dropped their antagonism and said, we're not taking this shit, you know, we're just going to stop it. And we're able to act as a collective precisely because they knew each other very well, because they'd been fighting over, you know, who controls this piece of, you know. You see what I mean? So actually, antagonism is sometimes. I think the reason why, for instance, only about 30% of the UK population turned out to vote in local elections last week has a lot to do with the fact there's not enough antagonism involved. There's not enough at stake, you know. And so you've got to introduce a lot more antagonism into sort of. I mean, who's interested in dopey council meetings? You know, I mean, so you've got to inject something that really gets people kind of mobilized, and we saw that, by the way. And I tried to say this to the sort of Socialist Workers' Party. One of their most successful actions in last time, even though they've got an ideology which is rather workerist, one of the most successful actions in recent years was, of course, their opposition to the poll tax, which is an urban issue. And their mobilization against the poll tax, I think, had a lot to do with Margaret Thatcher being eventually demoted. I mean, I think it really was. And I kind of say to them, you've been very successful on an urban issue, so why don't you take it sort of theoretically that way and push it even further?